Have you ever felt the raw power of silence? Picture this. You enter a crowded room and say nothing, yet every eye subtly turns towards you. Your quiet confidence speaks louder than any words, creating an aura of intrigue and respect. Now imagine something even more potent. Envision a presence so commanding that you leave a room and remain in every person's thoughts long after you're gone. No raised voice, no desperate gestures, just an undeniable impact that lingers in your absence. It sounds almost mythical, but it's very real. There is a hidden strategy more powerful than silence itself. Master it, and you won't just influence people, you'll become unforgettable. We've all heard the saying, silence is powerful. And it's true. Silence can command, respect, create mystery, and leave people wondering what's on your mind. Throughout history, the greatest thinkers, strategists, and leaders have used well-timed silence as a tool of influence. But let me ask you, is silence alone enough? Does staying quiet truly give you the upper hand in every situation? Or is there a more refined approach that goes beyond mere silence into a realm of undeniable influence? The truth is, silence has its limits. Yes, it's a weapon in your arsenal. But what if you could wield something even sharper? Today, we're diving into a bold idea, a strategy that's better than silence. This isn't just another self-help tip or a gimmick, it's a game changer. This method doesn't just make an impression, it embeds your presence in people's minds. It's subtle and precise, rooted in purpose and control. Imagine moving through life with such intention that you leave a mark so profound, others can't help but feel your influence. How is this possible? By combining ancient Stoic wisdom with cutting-edge insights from psychology. Yes, even the darker aspects of psychology. We unlock a strategy few ever master. The Stoics were masters of presence. They understood that true power doesn't come from speaking more or demanding attention. It comes from intentionality. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it best. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In other words, don't just talk about power or virtue, embody it. The essence of this strategy is not the absence of noise, but the deliberate presence of strength. It's a kind of presence that doesn't fade when you leave the room, but actually grows stronger in your absence. Why does this matter? Because in every interaction, whether in relationships, business, or your personal growth, you carry the power to influence. And influence isn't about who speaks the loudest. It's about how you exist in someone's mind. It's how you shape their perception of you and the lasting imprint you leave. If you've ever felt that silence alone didn't deliver the impact you hoped for, or if you've wondered how to amplify your presence without uttering a word, then keep reading. What you're about to learn can change the way you approach every aspect of life. Before we reveal this strategy that's better than silence, we must first understand the foundation it's built on. Let's begin with the power behind silence itself and see why silence works and where it falls short. The power of silence. Silence has been a cornerstone of influence for centuries. The ancient Stoics understood its power well. Silence is safer than speech, advised Epictetus, and for good reason. Staying quiet guards your energy and prevents you from blurting out words you might regret. More importantly, silence creates an aura of mystery. When you hold your tongue, people around you start to wonder, what is he thinking? In a noisy world full of those desperate to be heard, a person who chooses silence stands out. When you remain quiet, you create a vacuum and empty space that others feel compelled to fill with their own assumptions and anxieties. This is psychological gravity at work. Human minds hate uncertainty, so they project their fears and hopes onto the blank canvas of your silence. They might even give you more credit or authority than you've earned, simply because they're trying to decipher your quiet confidence. In this way, Staying silent can subtly steer the thoughts of everyone in the room without you needing to say a thing. Silence also breaks patterns. People are surrounded by chatter, opinions, and arguments all day long. But when you inject true silence into a conversation or confrontation, it disrupts the expected flow and forces everyone to pay attention. Suddenly, you are controlling the pace and tone without uttering a word. For example, imagine you're in a heated argument. The other person is raising their voice, hurling accusations, trying everything to provoke a reaction. Most people would instinctively fight back or defend themselves. But instead, you choose to stay calm, meet their gaze, and let their words hang in the air. What happens? Odds are, they will grow uncomfortable. They may start second-guessing their own outburst, realizing that they've lost control of the situation. Your silence has turned the tables. That's the power of saying nothing. And it's not only in conflicts. In relationships and negotiations, a well-timed silence can be more influential than 1,000 words. When you're not immediately filling the space, others lean in. They become eager to hear what you'll say when you choose to speak. Your silence makes your eventual words carry greater weight. It builds anticipation. In a casual conversation, being the one who isn't clamoring for attention makes you intriguing. You appear composed and in control, which naturally draws respect. However, silence owes much of its power to its rarity. If you retreat into silence too often, or for too long, it can lose its edge. Silence that becomes predictable ceases to be powerful. It becomes passive. Overuse silence, and people might stop noticing your absence, or, worse, interpret it as disengagement or weakness. There are moments when saying nothing leaves too much open to interpretation, when your quietness lets others fill in the blanks in ways that don't benefit you. If your absence isn't felt, or if people stop wondering and start assuming the worst, then silence has outlived its usefulness. This is why silence by itself isn't enough. Yes, being quiet can set you apart and give you an initial edge, but to maintain influence, you must eventually do something with that silence. The Stoics knew this. They did not prize silence for its own sake, but for what it enabled. They stayed quiet until the perfect moment, and then they acted with purpose and precision. So consider silence the first step, the foundation of a greater strategy. If silence is the art of saying nothing, then presence is the art of saying everything without ever needing to speak a word. The power of presence. If silence creates mystery, presence creates power. Your presence is your ability to command attention and shape perceptions without ever saying a word. It's the substance behind the silence, the force that makes you memorable, impactful, and impossible to ignore. Think of presence as the energy you carry, how you stand, how you move, the look in your eyes, the confidence in your posture. All of it speaks for you before you even open your mouth. The Stoics understood the balance between silence and presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In other words, your inner state will always tint your outer demeanor. If your mind is strong, disciplined, and filled with purpose, it shows in your presence. It shows in your body language, your posture, and your energy. This is why presence is often called silence with substance. It's not an empty void like mere silence can be. It's a quiet force that others can feel. When someone with true presence enters a room, people notice. Imagine a person who walks in with calm, unshakable confidence. They aren't loud or flashy, yet heads turn. They haven't said a thing, but their very demeanor announces, "I know who I am, and I don't need to prove it." That is the psychological weight of presence. It's an aura that lingers even after the person leaves. Everyone in the room can recall the feeling of them being there. Their presence leaves an imprint on the environment and the people in it. Presence works because it's active, even in silence. Where plain silence can create a void that others rush to fill, presence creates a gravity that draws people in. It's not about dominating a conversation. It's about dominating the atmosphere. By standing tall, making steady eye contact, and moving with purpose, you send a clear message without a single word. You project an image of self-assurance. This deliberate calm can shift the dynamics of any situation in your favor. Psychologically, human beings are wired to respond to these subtle cues. Body language and tone speak directly to the subconscious. If you appear composed, people assume you're in control. If you carry yourself with purpose, people believe you have a plan. If your very stance exudes confidence, people feel compelled to respect you. And here's the kicker. When you pair a powerful presence with strategic silence, the impact isn't just doubled, it's exponential. Your silence feels intentional and weighty because your presence fills it with meaning. Others lean in, literally and figuratively, hanging on what you might do or say next. Cultivating presence isn't just about influencing how others see you, it also changes how you feel inside. When you intentionally develop a strong presence, you are training yourself to stay grounded no matter what chaos might be happening around you. The Stoics taught that self-mastery begins within, and presence is the external reflection of that inner mastery. When you have your mind under control, you stop broadcasting anxiety or insecurity. Your presence becomes steady, unshakable, commanding. As Epictetus said, man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. In mastering your mindset, you stop imagining worst-case scenarios and start projecting quiet strength. You become the person who stays calm under pressure, and others sense that. To see this in action, consider the effect of meeting someone you greatly admire. They might not even acknowledge you directly, yet you find yourself drawn to them, trying to figure out why their energy is so magnetic. That feeling they inspire in you, that mix of respect and curiosities, what powerful presence can do. It makes people remember you. Silence might make people wonder about you, but presence makes them remember you. And when you combine a deliberate presence with intentional silence, you create an undeniable force of influence. Perhaps the greatest thing about presence is that it requires no permission. You don't ask anyone to notice you or respect you. Your bearing and behavior give them no choice. Presence doesn't beg for validation. It declares your self-mastery. It's proof that you've risen above the noise of the world and claimed your space with quiet authority. So ask yourself, how do you show up in the spaces you occupy? Are you truly present or just physically there? Developing a commanding presence is a conscious choice. It means carrying yourself with a sense of purpose at all times. If you walk into every room with the mindset that you belong and have nothing to prove, you'll project an aura that others cannot ignore. Your presence is your power. Make sure you use it. Purposeful action. So far, we've seen how silence creates intrigue and presence commands respect. But there's a third element that solidifies your influence: purposeful action. You can be as silent and as poised as you want. But if your actions don't back up that aura, your influence will fade. True power lies not just in what you appear to be, but in what you do. As the saying goes, you must become an old man in good time if you wish to be an old man long. In simpler terms, the future you envision, your legacy, your influence, the respect you desire depends on the actions you take today. Words and quiet confidence set the stage, but action is what bridges intention and reality. It's how you bring meaning to your presence and depth to your silence. The beauty of action is that it doesn't have to be grand or dramatic to make an impact. The Stoics believe that often the most powerful actions are subtle, deliberate, and calculated. A calm decision in a moment of panic, a steady hand when others tremble, a quiet step towards progress each day. These carry more weight than 1,000 loud proclamations made in haste. What you do consistently, especially when no one is watching, defines you far more than any bold speech. Consider this scenario. You're in a meeting or an argument where everyone is talking in circles. Tempers are flaring, voices climbing, each person desperate to make a point. You, however, remain calm and attentive. You listen carefully, observe the situation, and bide your time. Then, when the critical moment comes, you act. Maybe you offer a single solution that cuts through the noise, or you take a decisive step that addresses the real problem instead of trading barbs. You don't act to prove you're right. You act to solve the problem. Suddenly, the entire tone shifts. That one deliberate move speaks louder than any amount of arguing or explanation ever could. This is Stoic action in practice. Precise, controlled, and undeniable. People are deeply influenced by what they see more than what they hear. In psychology, it's understood that humans respond to observable behavior movement over rhetoric. If others see you steadily working toward your goals, staying composed under pressure, and making progress without needing applause, they will respect you on a fundamental level. They might not praise you openly, but they will feel your strength. On the other hand, if all they hear are claims and promises unbacked by deeds, those words lose their power. As one Stoic principle teaches, don't say you're honorable, be honorable through your actions. Seneca once remarked, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This wisdom applies to action and recognition. If you're constantly craving attention and validation, you'll act out of weakness chasing approval rather than upholding your values. The Stoics would urge us, don't crave acknowledgement for your work. Instead, focus on taking the right actions for their own sake. Do what aligns with your principles, and let your results quietly speak for themselves. The irony is, the less you seek praise, the more admirable your actions become. Purposeful action also has a powerful effect on yourself. Each action you take is a declaration of your character to you. When you consistently follow through on your plans, when you hit the gym on the days you said you would, when you stick to your word in both small and big things, you build trust in yourself. That self-trust becomes the bedrock of unshakable confidence. You begin to know, deeply, that you will do what needs to be done. The Stoics held self-mastery as the highest form of power, and they knew that mastery is achieved through disciplined action. After all, you cannot merely think your way into strength or virtue. You must act your way into it, day by day. Let's connect this back to our strategy. Silence creates mystery and presence, commands attention, but action is what makes your impact concrete. When you pair your silent aura and commanding presence with decisive, value-driven action, you become a person who is impossible to ignore. You're no longer just someone who stands out, you become someone who leaves a mark. Remember, every move you make, no matter how small, sends a message. Are your actions telling a story of composure, intention, and control? Or are they painting a picture of someone who is scattered, reactive, and unsure? The Stoics remind us that every choice is a reflection of who we are. Ask yourself, when was the last time your actions spoke louder than your words? Make it a point that from now on, they always do. Choose actions that reflect your strength and principles. In the end, words can be forgotten, but actions become your legacy. Mastering perception. By now, it's clear that silence, presence, and action all play roles in how others view us. This is where understanding the psychology of perception comes in. Some might call it dark psychology, but it's not about manipulation, it's about awareness. It's recognizing that every subtle cue you give off, even the unspoken ones, influences how people think of you. There's a saying, perception is reality. How others perceive you will determine how they treat you and remember you. So, Rather than leave that perception to chance, the Stoics would advise you to take ownership of it. Epictetus gave a simple formula for this. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In modern terms, decide how you want to be seen, and then align everything about yourself with that vision. This means your actions, your presence, and even your silences should consistently project the image of the person you choose to be. Consider the instant judgments people make based on body language alone. Suppose you walk into a room full of strangers. If you shuffle in with shoulders slumped, avoid making eye contact, and fidget with nervous energy, what are you telling everyone? You're broadcasting uncertainty and insecurity without saying a word. Now picture the opposite. You enter that same room standing tall, shoulders back, with a calm, steady gaze. You move with purpose and take your time to observe your surroundings. Even before you introduce yourself, you've sent a message of quiet confidence. That is perception management in action. You have influenced their view of you without uttering a single syllable. Humans are constantly reading these subconscious signals. We do it without thinking. It's an evolutionary survival instinct. Your posture, facial expressions, and tone of voice all deliver messages that people interpret instantly. If you appear relaxed and self-assured, people will assume you know what you're doing. If you act with intention, people will see you as decisive and capable. And if you combine that composed, intentional demeanor with strategic silence, you become downright magnetic. You'll notice people not only pay attention to you in the moment, but they continue thinking about you long after you've left the room. Your impression sticks. There's another layer to mastering perception: intrigue. When your actions are deliberate but you don't spell out your every motive, you create a sense of mystery. People will ask themselves, why did he make that choice? What's his plan? What does he know that I don't? This curiosity keeps you in their minds. It means they're considering your perspective even when you're not around, which subtly gives you influence in their thought process. Throughout history, influential figures have often been those who move in thoughtful ways and don't feel the need to explain themselves to everyone. They let others wonder, and that wonder is powerful. None of this means you should pretend to be someone you're not. In fact, the most effective way to shape others' perception is to truly become the person you wish to be seen as. It's about aligning your external presentation with your internal values and strengths. If you strive to be confident, work on building real confidence internally through action and self-mastery, and your body will naturally reflect it. If you want to be seen as wise or calm, cultivate those qualities inside first. When your silence, your words, and your actions all consistently reflect your core values, you're not wearing a mask, you're building a solid reputation. And a strong reputation is a form of power that is hard to shake. Start small in practicing this. Pay attention to how you carry yourself in daily interactions. What message are your posture and facial expressions sending right now? Do they match the person you want to be? If not, adjust them. Remember that perception isn't fixed. It's something you can shape day by day. Every small choice to stand a bit straighter, to hold eye contact a second longer, to speak only when you have intention adds up to the image you project. Ask yourself honestly, what impression am I leaving on people currently? And is that the impression I want to leave? If it's not, you have the power to change it. By taking charge of how you present yourself, you're not being fake. You're taking responsibility for your own story. The goal is for your external presence to truthfully reflect your internal character and aspirations. When you achieve that alignment, you are living intentionally, and others will sense the authenticity and strength in you. Up to this point, we've explored the foundational elements, the mystery of silence, the weight of presence, the impact of action, and the art of shaping perception. Now it's time to combine these pieces into a single, cohesive strategy. This is the game-changing approach that will make you truly unforgettable. Controlled visibility, the art of strategic presence. All the principles we've discussed, silence, presence, deliberate action, and perception, come together in a concept I'll call controlled visibility. This is the game-changing strategy that elevates you from just being interesting to being truly unforgettable. Controlled visibility means you are neither constantly in the spotlight nor completely hidden. Instead, you are seen at the right moments and for the right reasons. It's about showing up with intention and disappearing with purpose. In practice, controlled visibility is about quality over quantity in your interactions. You don't need to be involved in every conversation, attend every meeting, or be present at every social gathering to have influence. In fact, the opposite is true. The more scarce your deliberate appearances, the more value people assign to them. Human nature tends to undervalue what is abundant and to cherish what is rare. If you're always available, always the first to respond, always around, people may subconsciously take you for granted. But if you carefully ration your presence appearing only when you can have the greatest impact, people will sit up and pay attention. Think about it. Instead of sending a dozen trivial texts a day, you send one message that really matters. Instead of showing up to every event where you're just another face in the crowd, you skip most and attend the one where your presence will truly be noticed and remembered. By doing so, you transform your presence into something like a rare asset. When you walk into the room, people think, he's here, this must be important. When you reach out or speak up, it carries the weight of purpose. You become a bit exclusive, and exclusivity breeds intrigue and respect. This idea isn't new. The Stoics implicitly understood it. Epictetus advised, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." In other words, know your value and showcase it wisely. Controlled visibility is exactly that, knowing what you bring to the table and choosing strategic moments to bring it forth. It's not about vanity or playing hard to get. It's about not diluting your impact through overexposure. There is a touch of psychology here as well. People are drawn to what feels intentional. When you are selective about when and how you engage, others sense that intentionality. They start to wonder, why is he showing up now? What's the occasion? That curiosity means they are paying full attention. They're eager to decipher your purpose, which makes you more memorable than someone who is constantly around. Controlled visibility, done right, creates a subtle suspense. Others come to associate your absence with anticipation and your presence with significance. However, controlled visibility is not just about being absent. It's equally about how you show up when you decide to. You must make those moments count. When you enter the fray, do so with your full presence and purpose. Remember all the principles. Stand tall with that quiet confidence. Speak clearly and only as much as necessary. And let your actions demonstrate your values. Be the person who, when present, is fully present. And then, when the moment has passed, step back and let your absence speak for itself. When you leave, people should feel that someone important has departed. In your wake, they should have a memory or an impression that lingers. For example, imagine you've maintained a low profile in a project or social circle for a while, focusing on your own growth or observations. Then a critical juncture, vasa crisis, a decision point, a major opportunity, and that's when you step forward. You contribute a solution no one else saw, or you offer support exactly when it's needed most. You engage fully, making every word and action count. Once the issue is resolved or the goal achieved, you retreat again to the background. What do you think people will remember? Not the days or weeks you were silent, but the fact that when it truly mattered, you showed up and made a difference. That's controlled visibility in action. Silence with intention, presence with purpose. Mastering controlled visibility requires discipline and self-confidence. It means resisting the temptation to weigh in on everything, and having the patience to wait for the moments that matter. It also requires trusting in your own value, that you don't need to constantly remind people of your existence. The Stoics believe that the ultimate power lies in self-mastery, and practicing controlled visibility is a form of that mastery. You must master the impulse to always be seen, as well as the fear of missing out. You learn to be content knowing that when you choose to engage, it is enough. Ask yourself, how often are you visible in ways that truly matter? Are you scattering your presence everywhere, or are you focusing it where it counts? If you spread yourself too thin, your influence will be thin as well. But if you concentrate your appearances like the sun's rays through a magnifying glass, you create fire. Controlled visibility is not just a tactic, it's a lifestyle of intentional engagement. It shows respect for your own value and for the time and attention of others. When you practice controlled visibility, you transform how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Others begin to associate you with meaningful contributions and impactful moments. You, in turn, gain confidence because you're moving with purpose rather than out of habit. You see that you don't have to chase every opportunity, only the right ones. Ultimately, you achieve more by doing less, very strategically. This is the power of being seen when it counts. You become the person whose arrivals and departures shape the story. You leave people thinking, I notice when he's here, and I definitely notice when he's not. And that is a remarkably powerful position to be in. How to practice controlled visibility. 1. Start with self-awareness. Before you can control how others see you, you must understand yourself. Ask yourself, what impression do I want to leave? What values do I want my presence and actions to reflect? Be clear about who you are and what you stand for. Recall Marcus Aurelius. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When your actions align with your core principles, your presence becomes authentic and powerful. Controlled visibility begins with knowing your own value and identity. 2. Choose your moments wisely. Remember, it's about quality, not quantity. You don't need to be involved in everything to be influential. Identify the situations where your presence will have the most impact. For example, in a relationship, it might mean speaking up during a pivotal conversation rather than every small chat. In your career, it could mean contributing your ideas in a key meeting rather than at every brainstorming session. By being selective about when you step forward, you ensure that when you do, people take notice. 3. Make your actions deliberate. Whenever you decide to make yourself visible, do it with full intention. Let everything, your words, your posture, your facial expression, your tone, align with your purpose in that moment. If you speak, speak clearly and with conviction. If you listen, listen fully and thoughtfully. Even a small gesture, like how you greet someone or how you react to news, can leave a strong impression if done with purpose and confidence. The Stoics value deeds over empty talk. As Seneca said, words that are devoid of truth are meaningless. So let your actions carry meaning. When you show up 100%. 4. Practice strategic absence. Controlled visibility isn't only about when to be seen, it's also about when to step back. Deliberately create spaces of absence so that others have a chance to feel your value. If you're constantly in contact or always saying yes to every request, people may start to take you for granted. By occasionally holding back, not immediately responding, not attending, or simply excusing yourself from the non-essential, you create a sense of space. This isn't about being aloof or unresponsive. It's about letting your absence speak for itself at times. When used wisely, absence can actually make your influence grow stronger because people come to appreciate you more when you're not always there. 5. Stay unpredictable. One of the most powerful aspects of controlled visibility is a touch of unpredictability. If others can always predict when you'll engage or withdraw, your pattern becomes mundane. But if they never quite know when you might weigh in or step back, you keep them on their toes. Unpredictability fuels curiosity and respect. Sometimes your silent restraint will carry the day. Other times, a sudden decisive action from you will change the whole game. Vary your approach so that your presence or silence never becomes something others take for granted or tune out. 6. Be consistent over time. Ironically, being unpredictable in the short term still requires consistency in the long term. Controlled visibility is not achieved with one dramatic entrance or exit. It's a reputation you build through many instances. Over time, your pattern of showing up only when it matters and adding value when you do will create an identity for you. Someone who is intentional, impactful, and reliable in critical moments. The Stoics taught that greatness is not an overnight phenomenon. Epictetus reminded us. No great thing is created suddenly. Stay disciplined with your strategy. Each deliberate appearance or well-timed silence is like a brushstroke painting the picture of your character. Trust that over the long run, these choices shape how you're perceived. Think of someone you know or have observed who only speaks when they truly have something to say, who participates only when they can contribute meaningfully, and who always acts in line with their principles. That person likely has your respect, and you remember them, don't you? Through controlled visibility, you become that person. You cultivate an image of someone who doesn't just drift with the crowd or clamor for attention, but someone who moves with purpose. You not only stand out, you become memorable for being consistently effective and intentional. The contrast principle. There's a secret weapon running through all of these tactics. Contrast. People understand things in comparison to their opposites. We appreciate warmth after we've been cold. We savor quiet after enduring noise. In the same way, who you are and how you are perceived can be amplified by contrasts. If you've been following along, you've probably noticed this theme already. Silence is powerful because it comes amid noise. Presence is impactful because it emerges from absence. A decisive action hits harder when it breaks a stretch of patient restraint. This is the contrast principle at work. In simple terms, value is amplified when it's experienced in contrast to something else. Your silence feels more profound right after you've been vocal, and your words strike deeper right after a long silence. Your presence feels more magnetic when it interrupts a period of absence. A bold move seems even bolder if it follows a time of deliberate inaction. By alternating between extremes visibility and invisibility, speaking and staying quiet, holding back and pushing forward, you captivate attention. Human brains are wired to notice change. We tune out steady, unchanging stimuli, but we snap to attention when something shifts. Think of someone who is always around, always talking, always available. Over time, they blend into the background. Their presence becomes ordinary. Their words lose weight. Now, think of someone who is usually reserved and observes more than they speak. When that person suddenly offers a strong opinion or takes a bold action, everyone notices. Why? Because it's a departure from their usual paterna contrast. It's not just what they did, but when and how they did it that makes it impactful. The surprise, the break in expectation, gives the action extra power. The contrast principle is a big part of why controlled visibility is so effective. By carefully managing when you're on the stage of life and when you're behind the curtain, you cause others to truly value those moments when you appear. If you are often silent, your rare words will sound like wisdom. If you are frequently absent, your presence will feel like an event. If you mostly observe, then your decisive intervention will carry dramatic weight. Contrast turns your silence into a statement and your presence into an event. This psychological effect keeps people intrigued. They start to wonder, he was so active last week. and now he's quiet. What's brewing? Or, she usually stays in the background, but today she took charge. What changed? That sense of wonder means they are actively thinking about you, trying to predict or understand you, which only deepens your imprint in their mind. In a way, you are training the people around you to pay closer attention to you than they do to others, because they don't want to miss the next shift in your pattern. Contrast also creates emotional impact. Absence, for example, can make hearts grow fonder. People appreciate someone more when they've been gone for a while. Likewise, a period of silence can build tension and anticipation, so that when you finally speak, your words land with greater force. By playing with presence and absence, you are orchestrating an emotional experience for others. They feel relief and respect in your presence because they felt the void of your absence. They find your calm actions impressive because they've seen the chaos that preceded them. Contrast isn't just a tool for influencing others. It can also sharpen your own perspective. The Stoics would deliberately reflect on extreme opposites to cultivate gratitude and focus. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, advised thinking of life in contrast with death as a way to remember the value of our time. By acknowledging that our days are numbered, we learn to treasure each moment and live it properly. In short, recognizing contrasts in our own lives between fortune and misfortune, success and failure helps us appreciate our experiences and stay grounded in our purpose. The key to using the contrast principle is intentionality. Don't create contrasts at random. That just leads to confusion. Instead, be purposeful about it. For instance, step back and let your absence be noticed if you sense you've been taken for granted. Then return at a moment when it will be most impactful. Or stay silent while everyone else is arguing. Then speak firmly when the time is right and your words will carry maximum weight. Create a rhythm of engagement and disengagement that keeps people attentive, but make sure there's a reason behind each beat of that rhythm. A few pointers for leveraging contrast. 1. Plan your shifts. If you're going to pull back, be less visible for a time. Do it during periods when your impact would be low or when others are likely to undervalue you. Conversely, step forward when your presence or input will have the greatest effect. Timing is everything. 2. Avoid predictability. While you want a strategy, you don't want a rigid schedule that others can clock. If everyone knows you speak at exactly the last 5 minutes of every meeting, the surprise is gone. Vary your timing. The unpredictability keeps people on their toes. 3. Maximize the difference. When you come off a period of quiet or absence, come back strong. Make that return count. Likewise, if you've been very active, consider withdrawing at a high point, leaving them wanting more rather than overstaying and diminishing your impact. Think of contrast as the amplifier for all the other principles. Controlled visibility gives you the framework, but contrast is what supercharges it. When you walk this line correctly, people will start to associate your absence with anticipation and your presence with impact. They'll note that when you're quiet, it's just the prelude to something important, and when you're active, it's significant. You won't just make an impression, you'll leave people wanting more of whatever it is you bring. Are you currently leveraging contrast in the way you present yourself? If you suspect you've been coming across one note either too withdrawn or too overbearing, consider introducing some contrast. It could be as simple as occasionally holding back when you usually jump in, or vice versa. See how the dynamics change. When you master the art of contrast, you don't merely exist in people's awareness, you dominate their attention in a subtle but profound way. Mastering yourself, the ultimate power. We've now come full circle from the silent strength of Stoicism to the strategic finesse of dark psychology, and one truth remains constant. The most formidable power you have is the power over yourself. All the strategies we've explored are tools, but their effectiveness depends entirely on the mind wielding them. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In the end, true influence isn't about controlling others at all. It's about controlling yourself. Master yourself, and your silence, presence, and actions will naturally command respect. Everything outward, how you carry yourself, how you act, how you appear begins from within. Your presence, your silence, and your actions are only as strong as the mindset behind them. Self-mastery means developing the discipline to act with purpose and the confidence to remain silent when silence serves you better. It means you decide who you are in any situation, not the circumstances, not other people. The Stoics trained for this kind of inner fortitude every day. They understood that while we cannot control what happens around us, we absolutely can control how we respond. Self-mastery starts with your mindset. If your thoughts are frantic or fearful, that will show in your demeanor. If your thoughts are calm and resolute, that will show too. Remember Epictetus's wisdom. Man is not disturbed by things, but by the views he takes of them. This is a reminder that our experience of life is shaped by how we interpret events, not just by the events themselves. When you train your mind to stay steady under pressure, to pause rather than panic, you project an aura of stability that others can feel. People are drawn to those who remain level-headed when things get crazy. That's a superpower in itself. The next layer of self-mastery is discipline. Anyone can act rightly once or twice, or be calm for a moment. But can you do it day in and day out? True mastery is built on consistency, and consistency is built on habits. It's forged in those unglamorous daily decisions. Getting up early to train your body, reading to nourish your mind, following through on what you promised yourself, even when no one else would know if you faltered. Each time you honor a commitment to yourself, you strengthen the trust in your own word. Over time, that self-trust becomes unshakable confidence. When you know you can rely on you, it radiates outward as an assured presence. Others will sense that strength and integrity in you without you having to say a thing. A powerful thing happens when you truly master yourself. You stop needing validation. You won't chase approval or attention because you already know your worth. You're no longer a slave to the opinions of others. This inner freedom enhances all the tactics we've discussed. You can remain silent without anxiety because you're not desperate to prove anything. You can let your controlled absences speak for themselves because you're not afraid of being forgotten. You can take bold action when needed because you're guided by conviction, not by a need for applause. Essentially, self-mastery lets you execute controlled visibility, purposeful action, and every other strategy with far more power and authenticity. It also breeds alignment. When your inner values and your outer behaviors match, you become authentic in the purest sense. People find such alignment magnetic because it's increasingly rare. Most are used to facades, but when they encounter someone whose actions consistently reflect their principles, they can't help but respect it. That's why mastering yourself is the bedrock of lasting influence. You are living proof of your own philosophy. As the Stoics would say, you walk the talk. Now, let's be honest. The path to self-mastery is not easy. It takes patience, brutal self-honesty, and a willingness to confront your weaknesses. It might mean breaking bad habits and building better ones, enduring short-term discomfort for long-term strength. But the reward is absolutely worth it. When you master your mind and habits, you don't just influence people, you inspire them. Your very presence becomes a reminder of what is possible. You become the person whose strength others draw motivation from. When you're not around, instead of simply missing you, people might actually reflect on how they can improve themselves because you've set a powerful example. That is true empowerment, not the power to control others, but the power to light the way for others by mastering yourself. So, ask yourself, right now. Am I in control of my mind, my actions, and my emotions? Or do they control me? If you find that outside events or other people often dictate who you are or how you feel, then it's time to take back that control. Decide, today, to take ownership of your life. Resolve to become the master of your own destiny. Real power doesn't come from forcing others to follow you. It comes from leading yourself where you need to go. Once you can do that, influence and respect are mere byproducts. Your journey begins now. At this point, you have a wealth of insight at your fingertips. We've explored why silence can be mightier than words, how presence can fill a room without sound, how deliberate action speaks volumes, and how contrasts and strategic visibility make you unforgettable. But knowledge alone is useless without action. This is where your transformation truly begins. It's time to apply these ideas to your own life. Start with small steps. The next time you're tempted to blurt out an opinion, practice silence and see what happens. In your next meeting or social gathering, hold back a bite to observe more, speak less, and choose one impactful moment to make yourself heard. If you typically say yes to everything and spread yourself thin, try stepping away from a few invitations. Invest your energy only where it truly matters. Pay attention to how people respond when you make yourself a little scarcer but more intentional. Simultaneously, work on yourself every day. Fortify that mindset. Build those disciplined habits, and keep aligning your actions with your values. Imagine yourself walking into each new situation with the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to fight for attention. Picture having such a clear purpose that whether you're taking charge or standing aside, you do it deliberately. Think about how much more powerful your relationships, your career, your entire life could be if you commit to this path of purposeful living. You would move through the world not as a reactor, but as an actor, the author of your story, not just a character in someone else's. No, this journey won't always be easy. Anything worth achieving rarely is. You will have moments of doubt and times when sticking to your principles is tough. But if you remain consistent and patient, the results will speak for themselves. Soon, you'll notice subtle changes. People will start listening more intently when you do speak. They'll respect the boundaries of your silence. They'll value your time and attention more. You'll find that where you used to have to push, now others open doors for you. That's the power of the strategies you've learned, fueled by the engine of self-mastery. Now, the final question is the one only you can answer. What will you do next? Will these insights remain interesting ideas on a page, or will they become the way you live your life? You have a choice. Continue as before, blending into the background, or step forward and live with purpose and intention. If you're ready to take control of your presence, your actions, and your impact, then make the decision right now to start. Remember, this is your journey. Embrace it fully. Every moment is an opportunity to practice these principles and grow stronger. As you do, remind yourself of the bigger picture. The goal isn't to be noticed for vanity's sake, but to make your life a testament to your strength and purpose. Lead by example and uplift others with your integrity. Keep rising. Keep disciplining and developing yourself. Keep using your quiet power to influence, not through loud commands, but through steadfast character. In doing so, you will not only dominate the space you occupy, you will also inspire others to find the strength within themselves. Go forth and live intentionally. Your legacy is waiting to be written.